Stop the cap.
My people, sons and daughters of Helgan, this much I vow. The history of these days will be written in blood. By crushing the armies of our enemy, by seizing the weapons they thought to turn against us, we were fighting for our very existence. But if there are those who would deny us peace, refuse us our rightful place in the universe, then we will unleash such terrible vengeance that generations yet unborn will cry out in anguish.
A spokesman for ISA High Command had this to say on Visari's latest outburst.
The dictator Visari plays a martyr while threatening the peace of the universe.
Listen to this shit makes me want to break something.
Ever the diplomat, Rico.
Yeah.
Colonel Templar.
I'm off the field this time. So I'm looking to you and Sev to get it done.
You know we're on.
Good luck, Sergeant.
Sir.
The ISA also confirmed that the second wave of the invasion fleet is due to launch imminently. They will arrive in orbit over the Helgan capital in approximately 2 weeks, by which time Fleet Commander Templar expects the first wave of the assault force to have dealt decisive blows against Visari's forces. I'm sure we all wish our brave men and women good luck and Godspeed.
Diplomacy has passed. The Helgas do not reason. They started this war when they invaded Vecta, and it's up to us to conclude it.
The enemy may shatter our bodies, but they cannot break our spirit. Even now, they advance on our homeworld to seize by force what they cannot claim by right. They cannot imagine what awaits them. We will smite the invaders from our skies. Though they sweep over our lands like the sands of winter, never again will we bow before them. Never again endure their oppression. Never again endure their tyranny. We will strike without warning and without mercy, fighting as one hand, one heart, one soul. We will shatter their dreams and haunt their nightmares, drenching our ancestors' graves with their blood. And as our last breath tears at their lungs, as we rise again from the ruins of our cities, they will know Helgan belongs to the Helgas.
Requesting clearance to land on platform 2. Over.
Copy, Sierra 37. You are clear for approach. Landing team on standby. Over.
A lot of traffic passing through here today.
More than usual. They're drafting in units from all over. It's the waiting around that messes with your head. Guess now you're here, things start moving. Step aside. This way, sir.
Sorry, sir, just a formality. Okay, clear. Please proceed.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's got to be part of all these events.
Chancellor Vasari made another provocative statement earlier today in response to the as-yet unexplained event that left many dead and required constitutional measures.
Here's my opinion on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. First off, let me say, as an African American, I can more readily identify with the Palestinians over Israel. And I say this, growing up, I used to more identify with the Israelis because, in my ignorance as a child, I said to myself, I was like, well, African Americans went through slavery and Jewish people went through the Holocaust. You know what I mean? So, we both got that in common, right? That was my mentality. But as I've said before, to me, it looks like the oppressed have become the oppressors. I have always felt that the Jewish people should have taken half of Germany, but obviously the Western powers had something else in mind. Where you had, East Germany, West Germany, and the Berlin Wall, which came down in, 89, right? And, the fact is that, Europe has always had a history of anti-Semitism, and they've never particularly cared for the Jews. And so when the Jewish people propose, well, then give us our own state, many of the powers, namely the United States, the UK, and Russia, they agreed, they obliged. And the Palestinians, the Jewish people, which they were going down there, before. Like, if you ever seen the movie Fievel, that is about a Jewish exodus, with the little mice and shit like that. That's about a Jewish exodus out of Russia. Okay. And so they went down there to, to Palestine. And, what people got to realize is there were already Jewish people, living there. In that region, in the quote unquote promised land, the land of Canaan, which is what, the Jews will use to, try to justify. They'll use the Torah, and, personally, I just think adding religion to it just makes the whole thing retarded because it really has nothing to do with that. Okay. You have three types of Jews. You got I don't know how to say the first one, but the Middle Eastern Jews, which I think they're called like the Mesorah or the Mezorah. I don't know how to say it. Then you got the Sephardic Jews, which are the ones that were kicked out of Spain. I don't know when was that? They kicked out the Muslims in 1492. I don't know when was the Spanish Inquisition? I forget. Anyway, they kicked out. Hold on, let me ask. Computer, when was the Spanish Inquisition?
From Weebly.com. The Spanish Inquisition lasted from November 1st, 1478 to July 15th, 1834.
Okay, so in any event, they kicked out the Sephardic Jews. And then, obviously, World War II and the Holocaust involved the Ashkenazi Jews. And that's why even the first prime minister of Israel, Ben-Gurion, or David Ben-Gurion, I always get the name right because I have my little dyslexis moments. He's Polish. The first prime minister of Israel, born in Poland, he was a Polish Jew. And he immigrated to Palestine, in 1906, which again was underneath the Ottoman Empire. But as I posted on my community tab, it what's so crazy is I've even come across Palestinians that don't know this and Jewish people that don't know this. They always try to go to their holy book to try to justify, this land was promised to us and blah, 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 blah. And then even with the Muslims, they get on my nerves when they try to bring up the Quran, because I'm like, doesn't your book acknowledge that the Jews are God's chosen people? I mean, I can make a whole argument against the Palestinians, just on, that front alone. I'm like, well, clearly they've been winning all the wars and the conflicts that you have with them, and, they have the world's most powerful superpower, the United States, on their side. So I'm like, there's more evidence to suggest that they're God's chosen people, and you just need to, accept, what God has ordained, right? But they don't. And that's how, I already know that religion is bullshit, but I'm not going to get into that, but it's bullshit. Because it's funny, it's like, what evidence do you need? Why is there always this, we will continue the fight? Why are you continuing the fight? Because I'm saying, again, based on history, based on their, Israel's current standing, their military might and everything else, I'm like, it seems to me like God has already chosen, their champion. So what are you really fighting, right? Why don't you just accept your lot in life, right? Again, according to, religion, even though I already know that people aren't going to accept their lot in life, But anyway, this is the quote from David Ben-Gurion, which was the first prime minister of Israel. If I were an Arab leader, I would never sign an agreement with Israel. It is normal. We have taken their country. It is true. God promised it to us, but how could that interest them? Our God is not theirs, even though people would argue that, that Yahweh, freaking Elohim, Allah is all the same. There has been anti-Semitism, the Nazis, Hitler, Auschwitz, but was that their fault? And this is a very extremely valid point. It's like the Arabs aren't the ones that were oppressing, the Jews during the Holocaust. It was the Nazis, right? He continues and says, they see but one thing. We have come and we have stolen their country. Why would they accept that? Right? And then there's another quote where the first prime minister of Israel says, let us not ignore the truth among ourselves. Politically, we are the aggressors and they defend themselves. The country is theirs because they inhabit it. Whereas we want to come here and settle down. And in their view, we want to take away from them their country. Behind the terrorism by the Arabs is a movement which, though primitive, is not devoid of idealism and self-sacrifice. Right. And then here's another quote. We must do everything to ensure they, the Palestinians, never do return. Okay, so, and I'm not going to read the rest of the quotes. I have them they're in the community tab. Y'all have seen them, but I'm just saying. So anybody making the claim, that, because our holy book says that this is our land, I mean, it's just a crock of shit. It's a crock of shit. Again, the old Egyptian flag used to have, it was a green flag. I think it had a crescent moon on it, but I know it had 3 stars on it that represented all 3 religions. Nobody had problems with the Jews, like as a collective group, prior to, the formation of Israel. Nobody was calling for, their extermination or for them to be wiped out. I could get into, some of the bullshit of Islam and how Islam had, again, if you were a non-Muslim in Muslim lands, you were considered a dhimmi, which is a second-class citizen, and you had to pay the jizya. I don't know why I like that word. The jizya. You had to pay the jizya, which is not the zakah, because the zakah is for charity, and that's levied against Muslims, for feeding the poor, paying for the masjid, health care for the elderly, and all that other stuff, right? That's what that is. But the jizya is basically like an extortion tax. Like, we won't fuck with you as long as you pay the tax, since you're not going to convert and you're going to be in our lands. Right. And so this is why, again, I agree with Christopher Hitchens on the, religion poisons everything. Right. So, what was I saying? So anyway, essentially the Israelis have done to the Palestinians what America has done to the Native Americans, and putting them in, a reservation, so to speak, because that's what the Gaza Strip is. It's basically a reservation. Right. But because there's always been this constant fighting, from the Palestinians towards the Israelis go out of their way to, quote unquote, protect themselves by basically limiting everything that goes in and out of Gaza, including people and goods and everything else, which makes, obviously the Gaza Strip an area that's not economically viable. Right. So like half the population is unemployed, and they're living in squalor. Right. So and there's very strong parallels between Palestine and African Americans in America, and what African Americans go through. Right. With the economic deprivation, redlining, blockbusting, Jim Crow, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, debt peonage, COINTELPRO, 1994 crime bill, right? It's very similar things, right? Where they economically deprive an area, and then you have young men that are being raised and born in that area. They join gangs, they sell drugs, right? Because it's like, we can talk about the fentanyls coming from Mexico or wherever it's coming from, and then, the black people, right? Black men get their hands on it, and then they sell it to white people, right? Because the black people are trying to make some money, and then the white people do the fentanyl, then they end up dying, and then white people go, oh, we got to change the laws, and despite all our rhetoric about personal responsibility, now if the person ODs and the drug dealer happens to be black, then we're going to make the drug dealer, we're going to charge the drug dealer with murder because they killed that person with the fentanyl. They weren't doing that shit in the 80s when black people were strung out on crack. Now all of a sudden they got to change the laws. But I'm saying, if you have a group of people that are economically deprived, they're more prone to what? Radicalism. Because, they don't have the quality of life to get married and live well and do all of those things. They're not prospering like you're prospering. And then on top of that, Israel, is like, obviously, their economies kick ass. It's like you're playing in their faces. Like that, like, how the hell, to me, I'm looking at the Israelis, like, I'm like, y'all just got caught, y'all got caught slipping, man. Y'all was seriously slipping. You was lacking like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? And then to sit there and watch that video of the paragliders coming in, and y'all over there, you're throwing your little rave party and shit like that. And I'm like, and you got these motherfuckers that are that close, that hate your ass, you wouldn't catch me lacking. Like, now they want to, Netanyahu went up there and he's like, oh, we're gonna, lax the gun laws. And I'm like, nigga, you should have been done that. You know what I mean? You got all these folks, out there settling the West Bank and living right outside of the Gaza Strip. I'm like, these people fucking hate you. They live in squalor. You know what I mean? The rats are fucking crawling across their bed and shit when they're laying there, with no power and no running water, and they're sleeping at night. All they can think about is fucking your ass up. And you just over there, playing, Call of Duty, on your brand new laptop, in the suburbs, in the freaking, on the other side of the wall. Like, I'm like, nah. I'm like, y'all was tripping for that shit. And so, it's like, just looking at it, I see the news, I see MSNBC and CNN, they're up there and they're like, oh my God, what about the Jews? Oh, it's so terrible. Oh, and I'm like, but those Palestinians, they've been living in squalor. They've been living in squalor. Again, as an African American, I know how fucking mad I am about white supremacy. I know how pissed off I am. And I could imagine how pissed off the Palestinians are living in squalor. It's like, again, you don't ignore that type of anger. I remember when 9/11 happened and you had the white people, they were like, oh, they hate us because of our freedom, not because of 100 years of U.S. foreign policy. Your freedom, my guy, your freedom. They hate who we are as Americans. They don't give a fuck about who you are. They're pissed off at the fact that you're always meddling and fucking with their governments and going in there and putting despots in power that, have a whole bunch of human rights violations and shit. But because, you don't really care about that, despite all of the white Jesus, Judeo-Christian principles that you talk about, and how, America is just the best thing since sliced bread, you like to put on the front like that's what you're about, but that's not really what you're about. You really don't care about what goes on in the world. You just don't, and I don't know. The world just seems so fucked up now, because everything from jobs and corporations to, even nations that try to uphold these ideals. Like, when you really look at it, you can see that they're not really about that. Because there's other interest on the table, right? It's like, damn, are we really going to throw away this $1 trillion because, 5 people died or something like that? Like, no, they don't care. Nations have interest. They don't care about all this other stuff. People die and are killed every day, so that a nation can continue to do what it's doing and function. It's about maintaining the hegemony. It's about maintaining the order, the system, the infrastructure, all that. People die every day. They don't care. But what was I about to say about the whole conflict thing? Oh, the other thing is, it's like, and this is why they keep trying to drag. I've seen black people, they're trying to drag us into the conversation. And honestly, it's like me, I'm not really picking sides. I do lean a little bit more towards the Palestinian side, because I'm like, nah, you got them people living in squalor, and your ass thought shit was sweet. You really thought it was sweet. And they showed you how sweet it is not. But now they want to get on African Americans about, you should, you should, stick up for the Jews, like all this nonsense that's being said. And like I said, growing up, I used to, identify, with the Jewish people, and I'm like, oh, they had the Holocaust, and we had slavery, but looking at the Palestinians, I'm like, nah, we deal with this shit even right now with these conversations that we're having about reparations. And the thing is I don't see a whole bunch of Jewish people jumping up talking about, yeah, even though they're a group that's been getting reparations, for the Holocaust, I don't see a whole bunch of them standing up talking about African Americans should get their reparations. See, what they're concerned about with African Americans is, the Democratic Party tends to be the party that's more favorable to, the support of Israel. Republicans support it, but it's seemingly begrudgingly. On top of the fact that all of your most of your anti-Semitic folks, we already know how they vote. They vote, Republican. Donald Trump is their man. 2024, right? That's their man. And Democrats can't win without the black vote. If black people really sat on their hands, and again, right now, Democrats, Joe Biden's, his polls and shit, his shit is way down, right? Because, the Democrats haven't done anything for black people, and young black people are calling them out for that. And this goes back to Professor Black Truth's video, because he has a video clip of they had some sort of conversation in Israel, and they were talking about the fact that basically young African Americans are not going for the okie doke. And obviously that's going to be a problem for Israel, especially now that all this has happened. This is before this happened. But it's going to be a problem if black people don't go out there and vote for the Democrats, in that, that 90% that black people vote for. I don't know what percentage of black people even actually vote, but I'm saying, and I'll look that up, but and figure out what the actual number is, because it's not like all 40 million of us are voting. But I'm saying, generally speaking, I know, like, on the state level, like when it came to elections in New Jersey, it was like only 1/3 of the population voted for, Governor Murphy, which is our current governor. Only 1/3 of the population. So, what was about to say? Yeah. So, the whole thing with the election cycle and black people, and if black people are not feeling the Democrats, then that impacts the Jewish community in terms of how much support the Jewish community actually gets. Because you got to think, like, you got New York, right? So you got a whole bunch of Jewish people in New York. We all know how much money many of them have, right? You got Jewish folks in Hollywood, right? They all tend to be liberal, right? You got Joy on The View, right? They're all liberal. They're, I don't even know if I can even think of a Jewish Republican. I'm trying to think are there any Jewish Republicans? Who's a Jewish Republican? Ben Shapiro. There you go. Ben Shapiro's a Jewish Republican. And even him, every now and again, he gets into it, with some of the, the anti-Semitism, on his side. He's kind of like, Candace Owens, who likes to ignore all of the anti-blackness, that exist in, the, conservative spaces and the Republican spaces. She downplays that, and then just ends up being, their coon, and Ben Shapiro, he goes up there and basically does the same thing on the Jewish side. It's like what Seth Rogen said. Seth Rogen was like, every time, mass shooting happened and black people get killed, he's like, Jewish people seem to forget that, because of their whiteness and the fact that they look white, especially the Ashkenazis, he's like, we seem to forget that they hate us too. I give mad respect to Seth Rogen, because Seth Rogen is, he put that out back in 2020, but he was just like, yeah, like, he was like, a lot of us be on that, we on that coon shit, talking about Jewish folks that, who think they're white, and they forget that, that they're hated, unless you start talking about like, the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pennsylvania, and what is that, outside of, where was that at? Pittsburgh? Is that Pittsburgh or Harrisburg? I know they're on two different parts of the state. I think it was out in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. But let me think. I know that they're gonna come for us, as black people. If we just, basically do the same thing that they, have done to us, which is a benign neglect. Every time election time comes around, then all of a sudden, they do their little song and dance, and they try to get black people to go out there, get your booty to the poll, Oh, play some hip hop, make sure you play some hip hop and do a little dance, do a little song and dance. And the black people will be like, oh, they're down, and Hillary Clinton, here she come with the hot sauce. Bill Clinton, here he come, playing the saxophone and shit. Right? I mean, this is like the shit that they do. Kamala Harris, she gonna come out and she gonna, do a dip or an electric slide or some shit like that, and all of a sudden now, she black. Like I said, it's sisters in their inconsistency with that shit. I'm like, y'all need to be consistent with that shit. You know, 1 minute you get a woman and, you know, let a black man marry Kamala Harris. It'd be real quick. Black women be up there screaming about how she a light-skinned bitch and she ain't black and she racially ambiguous and mixed and everything else like that. But, you know, she go off and marry a white man. She the blackest woman in the world, you know. And these are the sort of gender war divisions that, you know, will continue to be further exploited and whatnot because black people don't know how to, you know, stay on code when them folks come in the room. It's like, look, we got our issues, but when them folks come in the room, you got to stay on code, you know. But, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about it. You know, I think, you know, some people are saying they think that that this shit was allowed. People are coming up with all these conspiracy theories now saying that, you know, they let it happen. And I'm saying I wouldn't put it past the Israeli government because, I mean, you got to look at things like Operation Northwoods. If you don't know what Operation Northwoods was, you know, you can look it up. But basically it was, you know, the U.S. government, one of the generals underneath Kennedy, you know, entertained the idea of killing American civilians and then blaming it on the Cubans to justify the invasion of Cuba. Right. And this is back during the, you know, the whole Cold War thing. Basically, it's Call of Duty, no Russian. That's basically what they were going to do. They were going to do a Call of Duty, no Russian to kick off a war. If you don't know what no Russian is, you know, for those of you who didn't play Call of Duty over 10 years ago, just type in no Russian Call of Duty gameplay and you'll see. So, you know, I'm kind of blown away at the audacity. I'm blown away, not the audacity from Hamas. I'm blown away at the audacity of the Jewish people that are sitting on the border like that, and you just out there lacking. You just out there with nothing but your ass. And then you got a government, you know, that encourages you to go and, you know, go claim some territory, build a house out there. We'll demolish Palestinian homes and you can just pull right on up. And then you out there, you know, with nothing. You out there, you ain't got no AR-15s. You ain't got no rifles. I hear nothing. I hear all this stuff about people being massacred and slaughtered and all this other stuff. I don't hear nothing about anybody shooting back. I don't hear anything. It was clearly a battle going on here. You know what I mean? I don't hear nothing. I mean, they came through, you know, on some, what scene was that in Call of Duty after no Russian, the Russians attacked the U.S. and then there's like a level where you're a battalion and you're going through like suburban neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. That whole thing played out like Call of Duty. No bullshit. It played out like Call of Duty. You know? And now they got, the Palestinian, the Hamas, you know what I mean? They actually played it smart because now they can't go in there and just bomb everything. Why? Because they took hostages. So if you're just going to shoot your guided missiles and shit like that at us, then, you know, you're possibly going to hit your own people. So what you want to do? So now Israel has to go in there, you know, on foot. You know, they got to do this whole CQB thing to try to get people back. You know what I mean? And there will be beheadings and there will be videos and stuff. And I don't know why the Muslims continue to do that. They like chopping people's head off. I'm like, that shit just makes y'all look primitive and archaic and all that stuff. You doing the shit in the most gruesome way. Like that shit doesn't win you any favor decapitating people. It just makes y'all look like, you know what it makes y'all look like? It makes Israel look like they're Leonidas with the Spartans, and it makes y'all look like the Persians in the movie 300, where they're just these faceless people with freaking scarves over their head, and all you can see is their eyes, and they're just there for the slaughter, you know. And that's how, you know, you end up looking at, you know, Hamas and the Palestinians. You don't look at them, you know, as people, you know. And again, when they start busting out religion and they start talking about a law and we're doing this because a law has ordained and said this and everything. I'm like, why don't y'all just keep it what it is? It's y'all land. Y'all were there first. You know what I mean? They took your land and now they got you living in squalor. Like, they don't even have the decency to not have you living in squalor, and you got X, Y, and Z demands. Like, I don't know why they don't do that. I don't know why they have to go to, and Allah and the Prophet Muhammad has said blah, 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 blah. I don't know why they got to go that route. Because all that's going to be countered with the Jews. They jump up and they're going to say their shit. They're going to jump up and they're going to say, you know, that you know, the land was promised to them, you know, by Yahweh, and how, you know, they, you know, that it is what it is. Like, I'm like, so we're really going to have a debate here over, you know, whose Sky Daddy made the most promises and shit. I'm like, that's just dumb. That's a dumb way to approach it. But a lot of people, you know, they're like, Israel has a right to exist, you know, and I'm like, and the Palestinians have a right to not have their land fucking stolen from them and be forced to live in these fucking essentially concentration camps and reservation, you know, style conditions, you know, because that's the crazy thing, right? Like, the Nazis went off and they took the Jewish people in Germany and they put them in concentration camps. And then here you have the Israelis who basically take the Palestinians and do what? Essentially put them in what is, you know, symbolically a concentration camp. I mean, that's what they're doing. And, you know, if I'm just saying, if I was Jewish, you know, I would just be at the ready all the time. And it would just, in other words, the constant threat of, it's just something that you're going to have to, you and your kids and everything, they're just always going to be underneath the threat. You know, I feel the same way when it comes to African Americans and white people bitching about, you know, black people bitching about reparations and the constant racial strife in America. I'm like, y'all had one of two choices. Either y'all could have wiped out the African Americans, killed us all, or, you know, put us on some ships and send our asses back to Africa, right? But again, they didn't want to pay for that. That would have been too much money, right? So, okay, so now you got to deal with, you know, African Americans, and you got to deal with the smash and grab and all that other stuff, which, like I said, you know, America has the black people it deserves. And as far as Israel is, you know, Israel has the Palestinians it deserves. You know, you got people, you know, living in squalor, Africa, you know, with African Americans. America has done everything to keep African Americans, you know, in poverty. Redlining, blockbusting, Jim Crow, eminent domain, urban renewal, convict leasing, racial housing covenants, so on and so forth. They did everything in their power. And now, you know, with the Palestinians, I'm like, Israel can't act like it hasn't done everything in its power to keep the Palestinians, you know, where they are. You know what the Palestinian conflict really reminds me of? You ever played a game Killzone for PlayStation? Killzone 2. Killzone 2 was it Killzone 2? Which one? It was Killzone 2, and then I think they had Killzone 3. Was it Killzone 2? Yeah, Killzone 2 was the one where I think they had no, I think it might have been Killzone 3. Killzone 3, I think, is where they had Vecta. And in Killzone 3, Killzone 3, they had basically, because they blew up the Helgas planet, they had the partition the planet, I forget what the damn name of the planet was, and they had the Helgas on one side of the planet, and then they had, you know, the whatever, the Earth colony organization on the other side of the planet. You should watch the shit. You know what I mean? But I'm like, yeah, like, it's gonna be that way. Like, it's just gonna continue to be that way, because I'm like, nobody wants to compromise. Nobody wants to share, you know, and to what degree you compromise. I'm like, you can't just go in there, oh, we're going to take all the arable land. We're going to take all the land that you can actually grow crops on so that you can live. We're going to take it all. Like, nah, that's not going to happen. Ain't nobody going to accept that. They're going to get you however they can get you, when they can get you. And when they can get you, you know what I mean? They're going to give you that work. They're going to give you that business. And that's the natural reaction, Just as David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, said, that's the natural reaction that people are going to have. You know what I mean? I don't know where people think that I'm gonna go in there and literally set something up to where it's only advantageous to me and it's disadvantageous to you, and you just going to accept that. You going to accept your lot in life. Nah, motherfuckers going to wait till your ass, you go to sleep, you get caught slipping, and then they going to run in your shit. And that's what they going to do. And that's what Hamas did, and that's what the Palestinians did. And nobody wants to hear that. They want to sit there and we were savagely and viciously attacked by these terrorists and da-da-da. Like, nobody wants to talk about the conditions that they actually live in and why they're mad. Like, why are they mad? Why did 19 guys get in 4 planes and slam 2 of them into the towers and one into the Pentagon and then another one into a field in Pennsylvania, because the crew on the plane actually fought back, or not the crew, but the people on the plane fought back. And so the plane, they crashed it into the ground and shit like that. In other words, how did you make somebody that mad? It's like the black people got the best approach, because whenever we see shit pop off, in the black community, oh, somebody was trying to shoot at you, they were trying to kill you. Oh, damn. What did you do? What did you do to make somebody that mad? Right? We understand that there's a before and an after. It's not just about the after. Right? But the way that the news cycle wants to play it, like it's only the after. Like, we were out here minding our business, and then out of nowhere they just attacked us for no reason. We're not going to give it context. We're not going to give it history. We're not going to break anything, down. No, we're just going to say that they attacked us. I see white people doing the same thing whenever, like, something happens, between, black people and white people. It's always just, the black people, they just savagely attacked us, them being mad at us. See, it's racism. They're like the Klan. It's reverse racism. You know what I mean? It's like, nah, it's a lifetime. Just like that dude in New York that shot up the train and whatnot, that they just gave him a life sentence. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, it's like, I'm like, would you like to be a fucking 63-year-old, 65-year-old black man? What type of shit did he go through growing up? You know what I mean? What type of racism did he face? You know what I mean? That shit affects you, and somehow everybody loses sight of that. And they think that, we won. We're in the dominant position. They're just going to accept their lot in life. And that's all that there's going to be. And it's like, no, you better sleep with one eye open. You better sleep with one eye open. And that's just the truth. That's just the reality of human beings and existence. And, I just sit there and I watch people. I just watch people just do stupid shit. I'm like, wait a minute. That motherfucker's that mad. It's like when somebody like the person you got to watch out for. Like, I seen people, I seen this happen one time. Motherfucker embarrass somebody or do something in a bar, and the motherfucker storm out and doesn't say shit. I'm like, whoa. Follow that motherfucker in the parking lot. What is he getting ready to do? And all of a sudden you see him pop the trunk. It's like, yeah. See, the motherfucker that ain't talking, you know what I mean? Like, that's the one that you got to look out for. The one that's still bumping guns, if they're bumping guns, they're still talking. But see, it's when the talking stops, that's when you got to worry. And that's where Israel, in my opinion, they got caught up. They were like, oh, well, I guess we won. We haven't heard from them in months. I guess they got the message and we won. Like, no, nigga. Like, no. But hey, again, it's none of my business. I'm just giving my toxic African American, opinion. But I'm like, nah, that shit is about every 20 years. I'm old enough to know now. I'm like, about every 20 years or so, it's a new generation. It's like what Paul Mooney said about even African Americans. He was like, you tell our grandkids to get to the back of the bus. There won't be a bus. Like young people, man, they're ready. They're like, you mean to tell me these are the motherfuckers why my existence is as such? You know what I mean? And they're not like the old people. The old, you get old and, you get tired and you're worn out and, your body can't do what it used to do, all that other stuff. But young people, nah, they ready. They ready. So every 20 years or so, you're going to see the same thing. And Israel's response is always the same. We will crush them. We will destroy them, right? They go and you do that. And then you make the conditions worse. And then another 20 years passes by. And then all the kids that remember, freaking, I don't know, pulling their mother out of the rubble and shit like that. Yeah. What do you think they're going to be on when they turn 22 and 23? And what do you think they're going to be on? You think they're going to be on some let bygones be by? Nah, hell no. Hell no. They waiting for your ass to get caught slipping. They waiting to walk into a market screaming Allahu Akbar and blow up the TNT and shit. They waiting for that shit. You know what I mean? So, to me, it's like, it's just as like I said, it's just like when I talk about white supremacy, like it's being the oppressor is exhausting. That's a 24/7 round the clock job, right? Like you want to be dominant. You want to be the dominant. You want to be on top of things and everything else like that. It would be great to be on top and not have to worry about, there's obviously you got to worry about, a generalized threat, but it's like, okay, if you could be rich and you could be a drug dealer and you could go out there, but you're probably going to have ops and you're going to have people that are looking for you, right? You can't even really enjoy your money like the way you like I could go to a club, I could go to a bar. I'm not really worried about, somebody coming up on me like that, right? Somebody I don't know, right? Because I'm not in the game like that. But if you are in the streets, your head's on a swivel. You can't really enjoy. You can't really just be out there in public, just walking about and everything else like that. And that's kind of where Israel is. Like you can't just enjoy. You know what I mean? You can't even be in other countries. You can't even go to France. And and you walking around. I remember I went to a club one time and I was with a Jewish guy, right? We were just hanging out. And there was my boy, right? He's Pakistani. And so, I don't know. I wasn't thinking, because a lot of time, Muslims and Jewish people in America, they don't really fuck with each other, but they just kind of leave shit alone. You know what I mean? But anyway, both of them were my boys. So I was like, oh, let me introduce or whatever. Anyway, I tapped some random Muslim dude because he looked just like my boy from the back. And I was like, yo, this is my boy. Man, he turned around. I was like, oh shit, it's not you. But then he looked at the Jewish guys that I was friends with, and he had the little, I forget what it's called, but the little pi sign. It's pi to me. It will always be pi. It will always be 3.14, infinite number, right? That's what it's always going to be to me. But anyway, he had the little pi sign on, and the dude just went ballistic. He was like, fuck, Israel. Like he just started going crazy, and he just kept repeating it. And like it was just like he lost it. He lost it. Now I don't know if he was Palestinian or not, but basically we had to separate, the two of them. It was like me and another bouncer. Like dude was going ballistic. It was crazy, but why did I bring that story up? There's a reason I brought that story up. But yeah, I'm just saying, like everywhere he goes, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you could come across a random Muslim dude and, he trying to stab you up or whatever because of, that type of shit. And that's the type of time that the Muslims are on. The Muslims are on like, y'all got the weapons of mass destruction. You got, they're going to be acting on some guerrilla warfare. Like they're like, you got all the protection and everything. The only way that I am going to catch you is I'm going to catch you in America, or I'm going to catch you in Europe, or I'm going to catch you lacking. I'm going to catch you slipping in some other environment, and it's going to be some random ass attack. That's what Jewish people got to deal with like every day. Then they got to deal with that shit, from obviously, the white supremacist and shit. They got to deal with the shit from them too. You know what I mean? Because, what's so funny is if you look at America, the biggest threat to Jewish people in America isn't even Muslim people. It's white Americans. It's like those white evangelical Anglo-Saxon type of people. Like those are the people that are running around, shooting up synagogues and stuff like that. It ain't the Muslims. You know what I'm saying? And then the Muslims, they have their own beef with, the white Americans and stuff like that, because white Americans do shit to provoke them. They were like, we will have a contest of drawing the Prophet Muhammad. You know what I mean? And the Muslims go crazy. They come pulling up and shit like that. You know what I mean? So America's got a lot of, little different dynamics going on. Because, quiet as it's kept, and the FBI is already, put this on Front Street. But, the fact of the matter is the biggest, threat in America of terrorism is not Muslim terrorism. It's not black terrorism. It's white terrorisms. It's white nationalist and white supremacist type of terrorism. They just had them people down there in North Carolina, shooting up the power grid and everything. I don't even know what they thought that they were doing with that. Yeah, we're gonna cut the power, and then things will go crazy, and then it'll kick off a race war. Like, huh? How do you get from A to B? Like, how do you I'm missing a step here. That don't even make any sense. Those people that they caught shooting up the power grids, because the power grids in America are just like exposed and shit. There's nothing around them. It just says high voltage wires, and then it's like a little fence around that shit. You know what I mean? But they were just, shooting them until they break. But I'm just saying that's America's problem. It's a different set of problems. But personally, I don't think black people should take a side. I just you just look at it, because ain't nobody out here caping for us talking about, yeah, you need to get African Americans them reparations. Like, ain't nobody doing that. Nobody's out here caping for us. Nobody's going to bat for us. Nobody is putting our issues at the forefront. They're just not. They got their own shit going on. So that's just how I look at it. I'm just like, well, but I'm glad to see that a lot more black people are just kind of like, well, it is what it is. We ain't got nothing to do with that, because that demonstrates that a lot more of us are staying on code. Because what we're not going to do out here is we can go out here. We're always talking about black and brown coalitions, and we always talking about we coalition again. Like Dr. Hendrik Clark said, we don't have no friends. We don't have any friends, man. And people do not fuck with us. They only bring us up when it's politically expedient for themselves. Oh, black people, we need you vote. You gonna vote Democrat, right? Because what we really want is we want to make sure that funding, for, the $3 billion that Israel gets, for its, support, for its military and everything else, that money keeps flowing. And we already know that the Republicans, they be wanting to cut that shit. So we gonna have to get the Democrats in office. You know what I mean? But again, when the Democrats then piss black people off enough, again, we're the population that everybody feels they can take for granted. We've shown that. We're gonna vote Democrat no matter what. So as far as they're concerned, they're just like, well, we don't really have to address their issues because, what are the consequences? They're still going to vote for us in the next 4 years, in the next election. They're still going to vote for us during the midterms, right? So we don't really have to worry about them. We don't have to worry about, oh, you've said this or promised this, and they're not going to, therefore they're not going to vote for us. Like, no, they're not worried about that. Because, again, the black boomers are always, they always go for the okie doke, and they've been going for the okie doke, but not us. We like, nah, you gonna have to come with them tangibles. It's an exchange. You want my vote? I'm gonna need some tangibles. What the fuck am I voting for you for nothing? And I don't get nothing out of it. I need to see something. Well, what do what do y'all want? Reparations. Oh, but we can't win on that platform. Well, that's your problem. That's your problem. I already told you what I want. And if you think that you can't do that, well, I'm saying if how do you eat an elephant? You eat it in pieces, and okay, well then use your imagination and come up with some other smaller fucking tangibles. But you ain't coming over here with just lip service And see, that's what they worried about. So get ready, because they're never going to offer anything, to black people, the Democrats and whatnot. All they're going to do is they're going to try to shame black people. They'll be like, they're going to start running around calling black people anti-Semitic because, we ain't going for the okie doke. And I'm like, it's not a matter of going for the okie doke or not. It's a matter of the fact that ain't none of my business. Apparently our reparations ain't none of their business, right? You know what I mean? They ain't going hard in the paint for what we're looking for and what we want, what we demand, what we need, right? So what do I care what's going on in Israel? What do I care? No, seriously, what do I care? You know what I mean? Like that again, like I'm tired of being a bitch boy. Fuck that. Anyway, that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.